So welcome everyone to our channel Chess Knight Riders Club. So we are starting this new series, Learn from the Classics, inspired by our beloved I am Sagar Shah. So today we are going to take a look at one of the masterpieces of former world champion, the Iron Tigran Petrosian. He was 17 years of age when he played this game against another legend himself, Viktor Korchnoi. It was played in 1946 URS Under 18 Championship. So without further ado, let's start this game. So Tigran Petrosian opens with d4. Korchnoi plays e6. He can go for Nimzo, he can go for QGD or Dutch as he chose in the game. So let's move ahead. Knight f3, f5. This is Dutch defense. g3 by Petrosian, knight f6. Bishop g2, preparing to castle and then shadowing his light squared bishop. b5. Castling by Petrosian, bishop d6. Now, Korchnoi is going for Dutch stonewall defense. And the pawn structure that you will see that black has is supposed to be very solid for black. But how Petrosian finds and exploits the weaknesses in this structure is very, very instructive to watch in this game. c4 by Petrosian and c6. So as you can see, this pawn structure starting from b7, c6, d5, e6, f5. This is the hallmark of stonewall defense. Now, if you were white in this position, what would you play? For me, for an amateur, for a beginner like me, I would senselessly choose a developing move like knight c3 or bishop b5. But that is not what masters do. So Petrosian here identified the potential weakness in the position, which happens to be the e5 square. Now his idea is to completely dominate this e5 square. And he'll be able to do that successfully if he can eliminate this dark squared bishop, which is placed on d6 by black. So keeping this in mind, Petrosian came up with his next move, b3 exclamation mark. His idea is to play bishop a3 and exchange that bishop. What would you do as black over here? Korchnoi chose to develop. According to my analysis, this is a dubious move. Korchnoi's priority in this position should have been to prevent white from playing bishop a3 and exchanging the bishop. However, Korchnoi chose to castle. And let's see how Petrosian executed his masterful plan and won the game. Bishop a3 by Petrosian. Bishop into a3, knight into a3. Equal exchange. Material is equal. And white's knight is on the rim. How do you evaluate this position? Petrosian must have been very confident at this point because he gains a stronghold on the e5 square, and that turned out to be the deciding factor in this game. Korchnoi goes for queen e8, planning queen h5 and a kingside attack with g5, g4, h5, h4 and so on. So here, playing quite instructively, Petrosian brings his knight back into the game without wasting any further time by keeping knight on the rim. Now, what do you think? Where is this knight on c2 heading to? Petrosian has a brilliant maneuver in his mind. Knight c2, knight e1 and knight d3, which again will attack the e5 square. Queen h5. Kochinoi continues with his plan. Now Petrosian in the next move plays a move which is the hallmark of the way Petrosian approaches the game. Prophylaxis. Queen c1. What is this move preventing? This move is quite simply preventing black from playing g5 straight away. Well, this move has got lots of hidden agenda as well, as many textbooks acclaim, but we'll discuss that. We'll come back to that a little later. Knight e4. Now Kochinoi was adamant on playing g5, so he adds another defender to the g5 square. But what's the drawback of this move by Kochinoi? Instead of developing his queenside pieces, he plays the same knight twice in the opening, which many of us have been taught in our early days to prioritize to completing your development first instead of moving the same piece multiple times in the opening. But Kochinoi, in order to execute his plan of g5, he neglected his queenside development and played the same knight twice. Now, this must give some development advantage to white. But how do you exploit it? What's your next plan? So Petrosian continues with his brilliant knight maneuver of knight e1 and knight d3. So Petrosian plays knight e1 and Kochinoi goes for g5. Both the great players are confident about their own plan, but which plan will triumph? We'll see that soon. Knight e d3. Now, as we can see, black has got a super strong hold on the e5 square. But how will that strong hold help white in converting this game? Black goes for knight d7, trying to add a defender to the e5 square. But this is why Petrosian bought positioned two knights to attack the e5 square. Even if Kochinoi exchanges one, he'll have one knight placed on that beautiful outpost. Knight fe5. King h8. Now here, for all our viewers, I have an interesting question. Why do you think Kochinoi did not take the pawn on e2? Queen into e2. Won't white be simply down a pawn? Well, let's see the variation. What would have happened if black went for queen into e2? There are multiple possibilities. Engines give a long line, but quite simply, playing f6 would have trapped the queen. This f6 attacks the knight. Knight would go back, let's say d6, or let's say f6. In either case, rook e1 was deadly. Anyways, Kochinoi was skillful enough or masterful enough to spot this tactic, so he didn't fall for this trap. He played king h8. Why? Because he's planning a full-fledged kingside attack and a pawn storm. So how does Petrosian counter this and exploit his advantage, exploit his development advantage? He plays f3. What is f3 doing? It deflects the strong knight placed on e4. Now, here, if you take a look at all the minor pieces of the black, there is only one minor piece that is well placed, that is knight on e4, and even that will have to retreat. Now, when most of your minor pieces are undeveloped or placed poorly, and the only well-developed minor piece has to retreat, that's not a good sign, my friends. So Kochanoi plays knight d6. Now, if we evaluate this position, what do you see? The minor pieces of black are awfully placed, especially the bishop on c8. The rooks are still not connected and the king is somewhat naked. Now the development that white has is of a very dynamic nature. He has got advantage of development. This is a temporal advantage. He is ahead in time. So in order to cash in this advantage, Petrosian must play some active moves. He must rip the position open so that his active pieces can exploit the bad placement and the bad coordination of black's pieces. But if you were white in this position, how would you do that? Even if you understood this concept of dynamic advantage, how would you exploit that? You are confident that you are ahead in development. You are ahead in time. But what do you do with it? Do you start exchanging pieces? No, that would be a blunder. Basic strategy: if you are ahead in development or if you have any kind of dynamic advantage, never go for exchanges that don't give you anything concrete. Would you choose a move like c5, trying to harass the knight? Well, no. That would close the position further. But in order to exploit the advantage that Petrosian has, he needs to open up the position. So keeping all these factors in mind, he came up with a brilliant pawn break. e4. Well, not the most precise move as per the engines, but these masters don't care about what engines say. They have their own logic and rationality based on which they think. Here, engine would have suggested something like queen a3 attacking the undefended knight. But that went against the line of thinking that Petrosian had. He was a very, very logical player. He was called as the Iron Tigran in his times because it was extremely difficult to defeat him. He would not play fanciful combinations or sacrifices like Tal or Alekhine. But every move that Petrosian played had a meaning and a logic to it. So here, understanding the position and appreciating all the nuances of the position, he finds this brilliant pawn break e4. Well, black replies knight f7. Why? Because he wants to fight for the e5 square. But it's too late, my friend. It's too late to react. And Petrosian starts opening the position. C into D, knight into knight, D into E, C into D5, E into D5, E into D5, F4. So my friends, once the storm settles or the storm fades, the another purpose of this multi-purpose move that Petrosian played on move number 15, F3, it was not aimed only to kick away this knight on E4. Its another motive was to move to F4 and exchange the G5 pawn, which would weaken the black king's position even further. So as you can see how far envisioned Petrosian's moves were. Dust settles and Petrosian plays f4. Well, now if you can see, this c file is open for the queen, and the queen will infiltrate the position through queen c7. And there are many textbooks which have analyzed this game of Petrosian, and many of them claim that this move queen c1 that Petrosian played on move 11, queen c1, this was not aimed only against g5. This also had in mind that once he opens up the position by playing c takes d5, his queen will move to c7 and infiltrate on black's 7th rank and deliver a fatal blow. So how true is that? Only Petrosian can say. We'll move ahead with the game. f4, rook d8, queen c7. Now how do you defend your position as black? Is it even possible to defend? Black played b6, finally aiming or planning to develop his queenside bishop. Maybe this is one reason why his position looks so awful. His rooks are still not coordinated. His minor pieces are still not developed, and his queen on h5 is attacking nothing. Instead, it's busy defending the loose knight on f7. Position for black looks very grim and dull. Petrosian continues with his plan. F into g5. Korchnoi plays bishop a6. Korchnoi is planning to exchange this knight, which looks to be better than his bishop, and in case the bishop moves, he'll gain an exchange by taking the rook on f1. But Petrosian had something else in mind. Knight f4, attacking the queen. Now, how do you defend the knight on f7? The queen cannot go to g6. Queen cannot stay on h5. How else do you defend the knight on f7? There is no way. And it is at this move number 23rd, that Korchnoi resigned. Now, if we go through this game again, there are few very instructive moments which we need to learn from. The basic intent of why we are going through this classic, or will go through many classics in times to come, is to learn subtle strategic ideas from them and to be able to implement them in our own games. So first instructive moment, my friends, for me was this. When instead of randomly developing, Petrosian chose to develop, but with a plan, which many of us amateurs forget to do in our games. We don't plan. So here he came up with this brilliant move b6. Why? Because he wants to exchange this defender of light squares for black, bishop d6. Now here, could black have done something else? This would be your question, isn't it? So I went through the database, and there are a couple of games of Magnus Carlsen, the present world champion, from a similar position. And we'll see how Carlsen approached this position. In the first glance, it looks like black played natural moves. He castled, he developed a kingside initiative with queen h5, g5. But why did his position prove to be so helpless? Why? Because he did not properly react to this strategic idea of white, of exchanging the dark squared bishop. So Abhijit and Devendu, my friends, if you were in this position, What would you do as black? Any guess, any idea?
I saw one game between Carlsen and Caruana sometime back where he played Queen E7.
Yes. This is the game that my friend Abhijit is referring to. And this is what we need to do. When we analyze a game and we find an idea that was executed, we need to research further to find how can we respond if we are placed into similar situations. So, if you can see, Caruana played the same move, b6, b3, planning to exchange the bishop on d6 by playing bishop a3. But having studied the game of Petrosian and Korchnoi, Carlsen had already found an improvement. Bishop queen e7, which obviously these days is a theory for everyone who studies Stonewall defense. They are very much aware of this move, that if white tries to exchange the d6 bishop, they'll promptly play queen e7 and stop white's idea. And by simply countering this idea and keeping an eye on the development of queenside pieces, Carlsen went on to get a very solid position, and even he managed to win this game. Now, if you see the mistakes that Korchnoi did, neglecting the development of his queenside pieces, Carlsen is attending to those factors. He is cautious about those mistakes, and he develops his bishop in the initial stage before castling. And as soon as white played b3, he was prompt enough to play queen e7. Now, only after developing his queenside bishop, he goes for castling. And another instructive lesson that we can get from this game of Carlsen, and many more games of Carlsen in Stonewall defense, if you go through them, you will see that he actively plays on queenside, because he knows that in this setup, black will always be behind if it tries to generate a kingside initiative. So normally in this kind of a structure, it is white who has a kingside initiative, and they can build a kingside attack, and black must quickly and actively play on the queen side. And if you develop that, if you refrain from doing that, you will be doomed, my friends. So understanding the essence of the middle game positions that you get out of your opening, understanding what are the plans for white and what are the plans for black in that position, is very, very important. And it is for this purpose that we need to study the classics and get a good hold of the ideas and plans that great players have executed and learn from them. Well, we'll not take a look at this entire game. Our intention was just to learn how Carlsen improved over the flaws that Korchnoi had in his game. And returning back to the same game, another instructive moment for me was when Petrosian plays queen c1. See, it's not only about executing your own plan. Petrosian in this position could have gone for his idea, knight e1 and knight d3, but directly executing that idea would have given black the opportunity to generate kingside play. g5 and g4 would have come with tempo, which would have delayed white's plan further, and maybe the outcome of the game would have been something different. So you need to always look out for what your opponent is planning to do, and if possible, make it difficult for them. So Petrosian plays queen c1, and this move I would give double exclamation. And then finally, this position where you need to evaluate the blacks and whites advantages and weaknesses cautiously and come up with the right plan. If white would have played any other developing move at this position, like developing the queen to a better square and trying to connect your rooks or trying to centralize your rooks, maybe black would have got the time to improve his position by playing moves like knight f7 and then b6 and bishop a6. But in order to exploit the bad coordination of black's pieces and to take advantage of your dynamic advantages of better development, of better coordination of minor pieces, you need to find active moves. You need to understand that at such instances, you need to open up the position so that your pieces can create havoc in the opponent's camp. And so here, Petrosian finds a brilliant thematic pawn break, e4, and the rest is history, as they say, my friends. Thank you, and we'll come back again next week with another classic. Thank you very much.